The sun was already sinking a few hours at best, and he decided the river was his only hope. At least it would be easier to think at the riverside than surrounded in poop, so he headed down the hill. When he got to the river, a girl appeared in front of him. She had a stern look on her face. "Oh, no, you don't," she said. He stared at her and asked, "Are you a naiad?" "Well, duh, of course I am." "But you speak English, and you're out of the water," said Percy. "What, you think we can't act human if we want to?" Percy honestly never thought about it, and he kind of felt stupid. He'd seen plenty of water nymphs at camp, and they'd never done much more than giggle and wave at him from the bottom of the canoe lake. "Look," he said, "I just came to ask." "I know who you are," she said, "and I know what you want, and the answer is no. I'm not going to have my river used again to clean another filthy stable." "But, oh, save it, son of Poseidon. You ocean god types always think you're so much more important than some little river, don't you? Well, let me tell you, this water nymph is not going to be pushed around just because your daddy is Poseidon. This is freshwater territory, mister. The last guy who asked me this favor... Oh, and he was way better looking than you, by the way. He convinced me, and that was the worst mistake I ever made. Do you have any idea what all that horse manure does to my ecosystem? Do I look like a sewage treatment plant to you? Me and my plants will be sick for years." The way she talked reminded him of Rachel, kind of like she was punching him with words. Who could blame her? Now that he thought about it, he'd be pretty mad if somebody dumped 4 million pounds of manure in his home, but still. "My friends are in danger," he told her. "Well, that's too bad, but it's not my problem, and you're not going to ruin my river." She looked like she was ready for a fight. Her fists were clenched, but he thought he heard a little quiver in her voice. Suddenly he realized that despite her angry attitude, she was afraid of him. She probably thought he was going to fight her for control of the river, and she was worried she would lose. The thought made Percy sad. He felt like a bully, the son of Poseidon throwing his weight around. Then he just sighed and said, "Okay, you win." The naiad looked surprised. "Really?" "I'm not gonna fight you," he said. "It's your river." "Well, good. I mean, good thing for you. But my friends and I are going to get sold to the Titans if I don't clean those stables by sunset, and I don't know how." Then the naiad sighed and said, "I'll tell you a secret, son of the sea god. Scoop up some dirt." "What?" "You heard me." He crouched down and scooped up a handful of Texas dirt. It was dry and spotted with tiny clumps of white rock. No, something beside rock. "Those are shells," the naiad said, "petrified seashells. Millions of years ago," she continued, "when Gaia and Ouranos ruled this world before the gods and titans, this land was underwater. It was part of the sea." "Okay," Percy said, "so how does that help me?" "You're not so different from me, demigod. Even when I'm out of the water is within me. It is my life source." She stepped back, put her feet in the river, and smiled. "I hope you find a way to rescue your friends." And with that, she turned to liquid and melted into the river. Somebody must have came by and fed the horses, because there was a huge bloody carcass on the ground. Percy couldn't tell what kind of animal, and honestly didn't want to know. If there were any way possible for the stables to get more disgusting, seeing the horses tear into raw meat just made it disturbing. "Seafood," one thought. "Come on in, we're still hungry." What was he supposed to do? He couldn't use the river, and the fact that this place had been underwater a million years ago didn't exactly help. He looked at the little seashell, then at the huge mountain of droppings. Frustrated, he threw the shell into the muck. He turned around, but just as he was about to storm off, there was the sound of a water geyser coming from behind him. He looked back and saw the water shooting out of the shell like a fountain. "No way," he muttered. "Get bigger," he told the water spout. The water shot 3 feet in the air and kept bubbling. It was impossible, but there it was. It was seawater in the middle of a Texas ranch. He bent down and split up the shell. He didn't really know what he was doing, but he threw the pieces into the piles of muck. Everywhere one landed, Saltwater Springs erupted. As the water spread around the ground, the menorah looked like it all started to sink. It dissolved into the ground as if it were never there. The muck was completely gone. Tons of it just dissolved into the earth, but now the salt water rolled its way down the hill. "Stop!" Percy told the water, but nothing happened. A pain in his gut was building. If he didn't get control soon, the water would run into the river and poison the fish and plants. "Stop!" He concentrated with all his might. Finally, the water was sucked into the dirt, and Percy collapsed to his knees. The task was done, and the place was squeaky clean. The only messy spot remaining was the bloody carcass. "We won't eat you," the horses wailed. "Please, Lord, no more salty washes." "On one condition," he said. "You only eat the food your handlers give you from now on, not people or wandering animals, or I'll be back with more seashells." The horses made him a whole lot of promises that they would be good flesh-eating horses from now on, but he didn't stick around to chat. Percy smelled the barbecue before he even reached the house, and that just made him madder than ever, because he really loved barbecue. He saw his friends all tossed in a corner, tied up like rodeo animals. "Let him go, Garyun," he said. "I cleaned the stables." "Did you now? How did you manage it?" Percy was still out of breath, but he explained everything. "Very ingenious. That would have been better if you just poisoned that pesky nymph, but no matter." "Let my friends go," he said. "We had a deal." Yeah, I've been thinking about that. The problem is, if I let them go, I don't get paid. You promised." "Yeah, but did you make me swear on the river Styx?" "No, you didn't. So, it's not binding. When you're conducting business, Sonny, you should always get a binding oath." Percy raised up his sword and ready to fight. "Eurydion," Garyun said, "the boy's starting to annoy me. Kill him for me, will you?" Percy didn't like his odds against Eurydion and his huge club. "Kill him yourself," Eurydion said. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," Eurydion grumbled. "You keep sending me out to do your dirty work. You pick fights for no good reason. I keep dying for you. You want to fight the kid? Do it yourself." It was the most unlikely thing Percy could ever hear from a son of Ares. Garyun kicked away the grill and threw down his spatula. "You dare defy me? I should fire you right now." "Then who'll take care of your cattle?" he asked. "Fine," Garyun snarled. "I'll deal with you later, after the boy is dead." Percy dodged 2 carving knives. Then Garyun lunged at him, but Percy jabbed him right through his middle chest. He laid flat on the ground. Percy waited for him to disintegrate the way monsters usually do. But instead, he just sat up. "Nice try, Sonny," he said. "Thing is, 3 hearts is the perfect backup system." 3 hearts, the perfect backup system. Stabbing one at a time was no good. He might as well have been sticking the sword in a teddy bear for all that reaction he showed. Percy could only think of one thing. He avoided Garyun and ran into the house. "Coward!" Garyun cried. "Come back and die right!" Garyun had a lot of gruesome trophies in his living room. Some were ancient weapons Percy could use. He drew 2 swords from the wall display. Your head's going up right there, Jackson, right next to my grizzly bear. Percy had a crazy idea. He dropped Riptide and grabbed the bow from the wall. Percy knew himself well enough that he was no archer. He couldn't hit targets at camp, much less a bullseye, but he had no choice. He couldn't win this fight with a sword. He prayed to Artemis and Apollo, hoping they might take pity on him. Please, guys, just 1 shot. Please. You fool, Garyun laughed. 1 arrow's no better than 1 sword. He raised his 2 swords and charged. Percy flipped through the air. Before Garyun could make a move, Percy shot his arrow into the side of his right chest. The arrow passed clean through all 3 chests and flew out of his left side, embedding itself in the wall. Garyun dropped his swords and turned to Percy. You can't shoot. They told me you couldn't. He collapsed to his knees and crumbled to dust until all that was left were 3 cooking aprons. Percy went back outside and untied his friends. Uridian didn't even try to stop him. Then he threw the barbecue into the flames as a burnt offering for Artemis and Apollo. Thanks, guys, he said. I owe you one.